everybody. I'm Karen Hartglass. You are listening to It's All About Food. This is an exciting moment. You are going to hear from Joel D. and Alison Cox of Edward & Son Trading Company.
That's all pretty close to right.
Okay, good. Just roll them. Tell me about everything.
Well, so let's start. So anyway, hello, I'm Joel. This is my wife, Alison. I'm the founder and CEO of Edward & Sons. I started it in 1978. Oh, yeah. Well, 78 is when we had our first invoice. It took a couple of years to develop the first product, so I get a little confused sometimes about that. But I was, anyway, in my 20s. Allison has been my partner for about 20 years. We've been married for the last 3 or 4, something like that. She's our vice president of sales in the company, and she's many more things than that as well. But at least for the purpose of this interview, that should be a good entry. Edward & Sons was started when I developed my first product, which is an instant miso soup, which I called Miso-Cup, which at the time was quite unusual because there was no such thing as convenience natural foods, and it was vegan and it was gluten-free, but of course nobody knew, even I didn't know really.
We weren't talking about gluten then, yeah.
No, we weren't. I was just trying to develop something with very simple ingredients without the unnecessary additives and the animal materials that I could carry with me because I was traveling a lot. Mm-hmm. And there was no such thing as convenience natural foods back in the day. Now, of course, they're everywhere. But at the time, if you wanted something to be convenient, you kind of had to invent it. So that's how the company began. The first couple of years of the business, I ran it with my girlfriend at the time out of an RV. I had bought a used Airstream and traveled around the country. And,
maybe we'll talk about the Airstream in more detail later, because we're talking about maybe doing something like that now.
I'm happy to discuss it.
Yeah, life in Airstream.
I thought about doing it again just because it was really a wonderful lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it became difficult to run a growing business from truck stops back in the day. But we didn't have internet, right? So
or cell phones.
You know, it's funny when I hear myself talking, it reminds me of when I used to hear my grandparents talking when I was a kid about what we didn't used to have.
We didn't have television.
Exactly. So anyway, we didn't used to have convenience natural foods, but we do have now. And we are kind of proud to have played a role in that process. Now we have maybe 150 different items, most of which are organic, but not all of them are. And all are vegan except one, which we are working on converting. And when we become a wholly vegan company, we'll let you know.
Believe you me, that's one I definitely want work done.
Yes.
The item that's not vegan has some cheddar cheese powder in it. It's not like it's completely fallen off the wagon. The company was formed as a vegetarian company and has maintained that over the years. But with the advent and the recognition of plant-based living, not just plant-based eating, the company is evolving in that direction. And when we get there, we'll let you know.
Excellent.
That's my first out of the chute. Just
beautiful introduction, but you came from a food industry family.
That's true. My father's name was Edward. Edward started a company famous for a product called Smarties. And that was the little penny candy, lots of different colored discs. Yeah, at that time, a penny. We used to ride our bicycles to the local corner store, get a handful of them for a nickel, and that would keep us on a nice sugar rush for the day.
But it's a vegan candy.
It is indeed. Anyway, and I grew up in that business, and I have 2 older brothers, both of whom were involved in the company. Back in the 70s, I was working in the candy company, and I was in fact responsible for developing export markets, which is what took me on the road so much. And that's when I found I needed to create something that I could sustain myself with. When I first began Edward & Sons, Edward was not too impressed because he felt I was, well, first of all, not sane. And then he also thought that I was passing a judgment on whether Smarties were healthy or not. What I attempted to communicate to him was I really wasn't sitting in judgment about anything. I was simply trying to create something that I felt was important to do.
It's a classic Joseph Campbell journey of a child finding one's way through life.
Yeah, and it's funny now, Edward just passed away last year. And it really is in the last few years that I began to realize how similar we had become.
Oh,
Never really intending to go that way, but he was a bit of a rebel himself in his world, and did things his way. And it was about 2 years into airstreaming around the country, making Miso-Cup for people, when Edward recognized that this was actually a real business, because one of the wives of one of his card buddies interrupted his gin game one night, bringing a box of Miso-Cup to the table, very excited she'd bought it at a health food store. And she was trying to tell her husband,
remember, we have to lower your meat consumption, and we have to do this and we have to do that, and lower your, more vegetables and more good food.
oh, anyway, my father, yeah, that was very good. So Edward looked at the thing. He recognized the box of Miso-Cup. He said, wait a minute, you actually bought this in a store?
You actually paid money for it?
oh.
He said, yes, and she began to tell him why it was good. Anyway, so he kind of came around and reached out, and that led to Edward really coming in and become a strong supporter of the business, and my brothers as well. So the business came around to being what the name sort of embodied. It's kind of interesting how that happened. Originally, I named it Edward & Sons because I was frightened to go out as a young man. Well, because I didn't know anybody, and anybody I knew in the industry had told me I was crazy to do what I was doing. So I needed to have some substance. And so by naming the company Edward & Sons, in 3 little words, I gave the impression of something which had been around for generations,
Exactly.
which made me feel more stable. But as I say, in a little bit of time, it then became what the name embodied. So it kind of worked out well from that.
Okay, it's worked out well. Your company is in stores and you have great products. I always considered it a company that I trusted for quality products that were vegan. And that's not true of all the vegan products that are out there, because a lot of them have a lot of junk in them that I don't really care for. I can find what I need. And every business has its ups and downs and its challenges. Many people, just regular folks, don't understand the food industry, don't understand the restaurant industry. Vegans especially can be very passionate, and they know what they like and they know what they want, but they can also be very cruel. We're supposed to be a compassionate group, but we complain a lot about things that aren't perfect or things aren't the way we think they should be, without really understanding what's going on in the restaurant industry, which is incredibly difficult. And let's not even talk about coronavirus. I mean, it's impossible now. I don't know how any of them are managing to stay afloat, because you always have to have the restaurant nearly full to just break even. Okay, it's very difficult. Food industry is the same. You have to meet a lot of standards. So I understand you have some challenges, or maybe there are people that are saying things you want people to know more about your products.
Well, the most recent sort of big public issue is the resurgence of a 2015 PETA investigation into coconut farms in Thailand, where they observed several coconut farmers who had basically forced, however you want to look at it, monkeys into harvesting their coconuts. And this is a practice that they had determined is widespread, although we've been to Thailand on a number of occasions and visited several coconut farms and plantations and never seen it, although we have been told that we can go and see it in a tourist show where they have a competition where they have a human and a monkey that race up a palm tree.
It's sort of like we have shamu and things in aquariums and circuses and animals with circuses. It's sort of the same sort of thing, where it's a competition, man versus human. I mean, man versus animal.
Monkey.
Yeah,
monkey.
But anyway, none of that is aesthetically appealing to us, so we didn't bother to go to any of those events. But we've seen this come up before. This time, for whatever reason, and I believe it's because the awareness of plant-based and the growth of interest in plant-based diets has increased an awareness into ethical treatment of animals. And
also at this moment, people have more time on their hands, so they're spending more time online and reading things.
We think it's very appropriate for folks to be concerned about these kinds of practices, and I think it's good for responsible journalism to pick these things up. But as is often the case, we as a population tend to, especially when we're offended, our sensibilities are offended, we tend to paint so much with that brush that perhaps didn't need to be splashed with the paint. And so in this case, I'm not sure that my metaphor is so good, but what I'm getting at is that a number of statements have come out, and grocery stores, particularly in the UK, have come out with statements that they were going to stop selling any coconut milk that was from Thailand because of this monkey employment issue.
Without knowing which companies used monkeys and which ones didn't.
Exactly. We're kind of like a black or white. If someone says it's not good, it means everything there is not good.
Now, as it turns out, ultimately, from a business point of view, it would be okay for us. When we first began, first of all, we were the first folks to introduce organic coconut milk into North America, period. And we did this under our Native Forest brand. Our first organic coconut milk came from Sri Lanka. And we continued to import several varieties of coconut milk and other coconut products from Sri Lanka, which is a beautiful country. If you've never visited, I recommend it.
After this is all over.
Yeah. Our demand for organic coconut milk it became quite large, and we believe in diversification as well as having to grow supply anyway. So we early on developed a very good relationship with an excellent organic coconut plantation in Thailand. The family that owns that plantation and does this operation, they have no monkeys doing anything other than if there's some monkeys that are wild in the trees here and there. None of them are shackled or harnessed or domesticated or anything of the kind, and all of the coconuts are harvested by humans who are well paid for their labor. In fact, when we were there, we tried our hand at cutting the coconuts off of the trees using these very long bamboo poles. They're very they're not heavy, but they're unwieldy.
They're long, and there's a sharp end at the top of it.
A sickle or a curved saw on the top.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
But the folks who are doing it for a living are really good at it, and they seem to find some humor in watching us try to do it.
Sure.
We're the monkey show.
Yes, that's probably so. In any event, they also have some equipment for the very high trees where it's like a,
basket, like you go up in a
machine that lifts them up a bit so they get a little closer to because some of those high trees are pretty tough to reach. And so actually the coconut industry in general, over the last couple of decades has migrated to planting hybrid trees that don't grow as tall, which makes them easier to reach. That does make them easier to harvest. But it is, I'm told, true that in Thailand, usually in the more remote areas, but not necessarily, I guess, that there are some coconut farms where the farmers have used monkeys for years, maybe even generations for that.
But we don't know that from
we don't have that from
our own. We don't know that from our own experience. Yeah, we haven't seen it.
But we believe that PETA found something that was legitimate and that they are sounding the alarm about that. We offer alternatives to Thai coconut milk under our brand. Every package or label says where the coconut milk or any other product is from. And we can assure everyone that regardless of whether our coconut is from Thailand or Sri Lanka or the Philippines or Vietnam,
no monkeys are used.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember when that report came out from PETA. I remember being shocked and horrified about it, but I also found it quite believable because I know what humans will do. I know what humans will do to animals. I know what humans will do to other humans. We are quite a curious species.
Yes.
And we do terrible things. But then there are other people that do wonderful things. So it's an interesting balance.
Right. As terrible as we can be, as wonderful we can be as well. It's just we hope that the wonderful outweighs the terrible.
I wondered about where the coconuts came from in the products that I was using. Fortunately, I used the native coconut milk and I used the Let's Do Organic coconut cream. So I felt that my coconuts came from a safe place.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
And not only harvested by humans, but also from certified organic agriculture programs and projects.
Well, what's the is there a connection at all? I don't think there really is, but sometimes you think there is, between certified organic and cruelty to animals.
Well, there should be a connection.
There should be, but there isn't.
There should be, but if there is, I don't know of it.
But we've not heard PETA reporting anything about these activities in certified organic operations.
But I think but they didn't specify organic or not organic. They just said Thailand. So I don't think there was any specification of whether it was organic or not. But you're right, there should be some sort of, if it's sustainable, which is what organic, the whole premise of organic is sustainable, of course, then you would think that would also lead to sustainability for life in general.
I believe that there is a ethical component to organic certification. I can't quote chapter and verse now. We have some friends who, if they were here, would be able to say, oh yes, chapter this and that of the regulations say.
Really?
Yeah, but and even some fair trade related terminology.
Yes, okay.
But I'm not sure about, ethical animal treatment, whether that's specifically called out. I think it's ethical behavior in general.
Okay.
But we'd have to research that further.
Yes,
for another
I think there's a certain amount, but I think it can be better. And there's
Absolutely.
talk about improving upon it. It's not going to happen in the short term with the current government situation that we're in, but let's put that aside for a moment.
Are you referring to organic, to improvements in the organic regulation?
Yeah.
Because that actually is another topic that I have some feelings about on this one, because that there's a lot of folks who feel that organic has become so corporate that their trust in the USDA organic seal is shaken and wavering. So if I can just comment for a second. Please. From my perspective, because I know a lot of the folks who were involved in the creation of the USDA organic standards in the first place, and I know how dedicated they are, and I know how much work is spent to really ensure that the organic standards have credibility and so forth. And I know how difficult it is to manage a world of people who are also motivated by wanting to make money and so forth. These are not easy things to administer. And so we come back to, the perfect being the enemy of the good. The organic regulations are not perfect, but they are definitely good. And they are definitely better than not having any regulations at all or any standards at all. Having the USDA be the body which technically oversees the organic certifications probably was a necessity, even though there are problems and there's political influence and so forth with changing administrations. But the concept, I think, was sound, which was before we had organic regulations, everybody was calling everything organic.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wasn't serving consumers. So some standards needed to be set.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we agree with all the standards or not, they clearly are an improvement over no standards. And I have a lot of sympathy for, not just sympathy, I also hunger for a higher standard. And there are higher standards out there that are like Organic Plus. There are several that are competing in the marketplace for a position to see if they can gain hold. The one which seems like it's getting the most traction is regenerative agriculture. And I also think that that biodynamic is a remarkable standard that's also an Organic Plus. And a lot of these things have overlapping components. So it remains to be seen what's there. So I kind of look at organic as a important foundational standard upon which we now are free to build additional enhancements. And that's the process that's happening.
It's interesting you bring up biodynamic, which is also good, but biodynamic certifications often require an animal component to nourish the soil. So there's some for people that want to put out vegan products, they can't have a biodynamic certification because they're not putting cow bones in their soil. But we can work those things out, right?
Yes.
No, and I that's why we have a number of competing standards that are becoming available. And I think that we've always operated from the position not to tell people what to do, but just to try to communicate what we are doing. And then those who feel like are resonating with it are drawn to our products. And so that particular philosophy is one has served us. I think that there are going to definitely be enhancements and premium levels of organic that are become available to consumers in the future. But organic itself as a standard is one which has brought a lot of stability and benefit to consumers as well as to the planet.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. We buy only organic at home. And some people will say that it's privilege that allows us to do that. I have to say that I live on a very small income, and I just prioritize where healthy, nourishing food is at the top of the list, period.
You know, after the last big economic challenge, what was it, maybe 5 years ago? Yeah, 2008. All the predictions from the talking heads were that the demand for organic food was going to be the first to dry up, because when consumers didn't have much money to spend, organic would be tossed off their table.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was somewhat, but if you're committed to an organic diet, they say that you would rather change and have a staycation rather than a vacation in order to maintain your diet of organic, because that's what was important to you. So while there was a little bit of a drop because of available monies, organics continue to grow strong and remain strong because of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, many of us are having imposed staycations right now.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
We have barely left our apartment in 4 months. Has it been 4 months? April, May, June, July. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Have
crazy.
you managed to find the silver linings in there?
Well, we've never eaten better. So we're both cooks, Gary and I, and we prepare a lot of food. We have a lot of recipes on our nonprofit website, Responsible Eating and Living, and we just love preparing food. So we made sure when this thing came down that we were fully stocked. And we live in New York City, but we have access to excellent produce. We just got a delivery an hour ago, and everything's delivered. And we're just very fortunate to be able to have that. I haven't been in a store in 4 months.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I haven't had native coconut milk delivered to my house, because I have. With the simple one, without the guar gum.
Yep. Sri Lanka then.
Okay.
And I'm going to make a slight brand correction. So the brand is Native Forest.
Native Forest. I'm sorry.
No, it's no problem. And it is true that simple has no other ingredients. It's just water and organic coconut.
I like foods like that, you know?
Yeah. And that's been one of our mottos and our MOs since we began, is to have as few ingredients as possible. You obviously make a simpler product that way, but also then you alienate less people. This one doesn't want to have garlic. This one doesn't want to have the guar gum. This one doesn't want to have this. And the more you limit it, the more people can have the product. So
yeah, healthy eaters can be very, very picky.
No.
Yeah. So when you mentioned the Miso-Cup not having gluten in it just by accident, and now we're talking about organic standards. One of the reasons why organic standards are so important to me, there's so many reasons, but now we're learning about how glyphosate is just like sprayed on everything. It's not just Roundup Ready products. It's all the grains and beans, and come on, it's a desiccant. And I don't want that. And I believe that a lot of the wheat intolerances have to do with the poisons that are being put on the grains.
Well, look how many people can go to Europe and they can
not have a problem.
Exactly, and not have a problem there. It's because of the way we treat our food. I know.
Yes, anyway. So
not everybody thinks that way.
Yeah, it's kind of nutty. Now, have you seen since 2015 any impact of this PETA report on the coconut business?
So here's what happened. So in 2015, when it happened, There was just a small little blip. We had some inquiries. We made certain that our suppliers were as compliant as we knew them to be, and it kind of passed over. And then this came around again. This time, although it didn't seem to come around with any new investigation, it was sort of a recycling of the original report. But I think that it was found that the public was more receptive to the information this time around. And so there have been stores, certainly we have received a number of emails and
from customers, both at retail level or, other people using our milk in their products, and consumer level, all just writing in and wanting to confirm. So we've written up something and we send it out. It's on our website and everything, just letting everybody know, no monkey business here.
Oh, I might use that as a title. No monkey business here. That's good. Okay. Well, while I have you, I mean, there have been other products that people have complained about, like palm oil.
That's another one.
That's another one. So
you want us to talk about palm oil?
Sure. Let's go.
So the problem with palm oil is really a big problem because it is so widely used. There is so much palm oil, and largely the demand for palm oil skyrocketed when consumers learned that trans fats were such a problem, right? Before the awareness of trans fats, palm oil was really not a major player. But when trans fats became a big no-no, industry was moving collectively away from trans fats.
I had to find something that was solid at room temperature, something was solidified that wasn't created to be solid. So that's where palm fat was a very good replacement
for the otherwise hydrogenated fats. And it brought about good results. And as far as the baking and cooking and so on and so forth, the finished products turned out well. And so the demand for palm oil skyrocketed. And so the price also went up. And so those nations who were able to step up production naturally would do so. And the pursuit of the almighty dollar, ruble, euro, yen, whatever it might be, as the primary driving force in the way that humans behave, resulted in the destruction of thousands of acres of natural habitat. And that again came to the attention of those not just environmentally aware folks, but also those realizing that, hey, you're taking out the forest, what about all the animals that live there? And then, of course, the rest for us is history, right?
Yeah.
Because once we become aware that all of the animals, but we seem to be particularly attentive to orangutans when it comes to the habitats that are destroyed for the palm production. So once again, all palm oil now suddenly is bad, except it's not.
There's a lot of good projects where it really has helped arid areas, and it has really helped forestation and really helped growth both economically of families living nearby that have. So there's some really good projects which are very sustainable and very well run, as well as there being, of course, others that aren't.
There is also the phenomena that some countries long ago destroyed their natural habitats. Long ago. So for example, in Thailand, it's a beautiful country, but there's not acres, thousands of acres of native forests running around Thailand that are up for grabs or ready to be destroyed so that they can plant more palms for palm oil production or even for coconuts. It's not like that. It's not that the area is also dense and populous, but it's very old. It's been settled for, thousands of years. So palm oil production, for example, in Thailand, never involves destroying native habitat. It's not that native habitat wasn't there generations ago, but it's not there now. And palm plantations for palm oil, and I'm not trying to, I have no skin in that game particularly. Palm plantations are still plants. And so when they are managed appropriately, they can provide some carbon sequestration and be ultimately beneficial. But more importantly, they can be done in a way which is sustainable, which is providing gainful employment to people who live in outlying rural areas that otherwise don't have too many options. And it behooves folks to dig a little bit deeper before they assume everything is bad.
Oh, but that's work.
It is work. And I think there's going to be more of that that's done for consumers by platforms that we who are involved in working and providing a link between farmer and consumer, that it becomes something that we need to understand, embrace, develop, work with, so that we can provide that trust linkage from the shelf in the store back to the farmer in the field.
Do you have palm oil in your products, in some of your products?
We have palm oil in some of our products. I will tell you that even though we are confident that the palm oil in our products doesn't involve any habitat destruction, and even though we make offsetting payments to responsible palm producers who are certified as being environmentally sensitive, even with all of that, we are still in the process of migrating to all other oil choices
wherever possible,
because consumers are so convinced that all palm oil is bad. And so we can't really take on ourselves this task of saying, well, we're right and all of you are wrong. That's not, no percentage in that, and we don't really need to be right.
We can't talk to every consumer as they go and look at a product on the shelf.
Right.
We're working, for example, now with high oleic sunflower oil and doing tests to see how this impacts on the quality of the product and so forth. I anticipate that more of our items will be moving over to that oil choice, as we are also watching to see, because nothing is static. Consumers keep changing their feelings and thoughts. And I feel a little bit sadly, though, about those folks who really are doing
a good job with
work.
palm oil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because now if we all go away from it, then what are they doing? What are they doing it all for? And if they're doing it right, we want to support them. We are all one. We want to be able to support people who are doing good things wherever they are. And so that it's difficult for us. But again, we can't fight the fact that, as I said, we can't speak to each consumer as they look at a product on the shelf. So,
are there any certifications that would let us know that the palm oil is better? I know there's the round table. Right?
Yeah, but okay, so that there are a couple of different things. So there is the round table, but it also has different levels within it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely folks in the round table that do some sustainable projects and some unsustainable projects, which really complicates the issue even more. And it's largely, that is one of the reasons why we are moving away as well, is that we just can't be certain that the round table is providing sufficient information in order to, even with these other offsetting payments, for it to be a completely comfortable scenario. I would say that members of the round table who are also certified organic give an additional level of comfort. I myself would be absolutely comfortable having a certified organic palm oil, even if it wasn't a member of the round table, because I don't believe you could get organic certification of a slash and burn kind of operation.
I wasn't expecting to get as much out of you two as I did today. This has been great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's nice that we were able to chat. Alison said we got about 150 items, and each one of them has a story.
Exactly. So, I like to say every food has a story. Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to say it too, but we'll see. I'd suffice it to say that in our world, we're still having fun doing what it is that we do. One of the great joys that we have is when we do connect with consumers who let us know how a product that we
touch their lives.
It just gives an additional level of satisfaction to our professional lives, and it helps to sort of energize us to be able to go to work the next day. And so we're grateful for that feedback.
Is there a plan for a memoir or the Edwards and Sons story?
There is not a plan.
You can help us plan one.
Okay, I'm planting a seed.
Okay.
Well, I just read Seth Tibbetts' book, In Search of the Wild Tofurkey. And I haven't
read it yet.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Okay,
and I think being in the food business, I think you'll really enjoy his stories.
Yeah.
And he's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's really a fun book.
Okay.
And so I think your story, I mean, I've only heard a little touch of it, but I'm sure there are some wonderful stories, happy, sad, whatever, that people would like to know. And we should know, because we need to know how difficult it is to be in the food industry.
Thank you. And it's not really just about how difficult, it really is about how fun it is and how in small ways we can uplift people on both sides of the equation, the supplies and the consumers as well. That for us gives business a whole nother level of satisfaction.
Well, this is a global world. We're all connected, and there's a right way to be connected, and there's a wrong way. And you're part of the right way. So thank you for that. And thank you for connecting all of us so we can all enjoy the fruits of this planet, literally.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, well, I hope to be able to see you in person sometime.
Me too.
If this thing ever lifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining me today.
Pleasure.
Okay, this is Allison and Joel of Edwards & Sons. Thank you again.
Bye.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye.
Bye.
Joel D. and Alison Cox. I really liked them. It was really fun talking to them. And now it's going to be more fun talking to Gary DiMattei.
Hey, Karen Hartglass, it's so great to see you. How's everything going today?
Well, it's hot.
It's hot in New York. Hot.
New York, hot.
It's hot. Hot in here. Hot. Hot.
Hot and it's monotonous.
That's from Into the Woods. No,
that's from Sunday in the Park with George.
Oh, yeah. I just got kicked out of the Sondheim Club.
Okay, we can all... People make mistakes.
Fathers, mothers.
Okay, what's that from?
That's from Into the Woods.
Okay, ding!
And the baker sings that.
Yes.
This guy that you just talked to, Joel D. and Alison Cox.
Awesome people.
They were awesome. This is an awesome company.
So I've always liked this company. And after interviewing Joel and finding out what the company's all about, I love the company even more.
I know.
And then I went to their website and I discovered all of the products that they make because I only knew about a few of them.
And they make phenomenal products.
They do. And they have all these different brands.
I know. And where they stand, which is at their website, they have a little blurb that I just would like to read, if that's okay.
Sure.
Our company was born out of a commitment to create delicious vegetarian foods with convenient preparation for those with busy, health-aware lifestyles. We travel the world tasting regional foods, sourcing the finest ingredients, and partnering with reliable, ethical farmers, packers, and food artisans to create our unique range of organic, vegetarian specialties. And you were telling me before we went on the air that they're actually mostly vegan now. They have maybe one or two products.
That's right. One product left that they're working on to make vegan.
Right.
Yeah.
So hats off. I'm glad you are talking to these folks.
Well, you know, he was like Seth Thibbett, who I spoke with last week. He's one of the groundbreaking people starting a company that sells vegetarian and mostly vegan products.
And organic.
Yeah. And with an element of compassion, concern, care for the environment, care for people, care for quality, care for the ingredients.
Yeah.
You know, that's not like the industrial food system that feeds most of America today.
No, it's not. And let's talk a little bit about that, because he also has another nice little blurb here. The name of our company and the first of our brands, Edward & Sons, nicely exemplifies a guiding principle of the company to offer health-aware consumers convenience without compromise. The Edward & Sons brand was born in 1978 with the launch of our natural instant Miso-Cup.
Miso-Cup, he talked about that. So he was working for his dad.
Right.
Making Smarties.
Good for him.
The candy, the sugar candy, and he was traveling a lot. And there just weren't foods that he could eat all the time.
Yeah.
So he decided, okay, I mean, it's classic. If you can't find what you want, you have to create it.
Right.
And he started with the Miso-Cup. I remember the Miso-Cup. way back when, reading ingredients on the back of packages. I've been reading ingredients on labels forever, folks.
Right. You have.
And that was a good one.
Right. Sometimes when we went to grocery stores before the pandemic, we would be in the grocery store for hours just reading labels before we bought anything.
Oh, the good romantic old days.
Yeah.
Reading
one more
labels
thing I want to
together.
read that this is my favorite part of this organization, and that's another blurb on their website. We are family owned and operated, so we don't make our decisions the same way the big guys do. It's not that we ignore profitability, but it simply isn't our prime motivation. Rather than chasing quarterly profit goals to please shareholders, we are guided by our mission and keep our eyes on our true goal to provide consumers with delicious, wholesome, and convenient packaged vegetarian groceries.
Soon to be vegan.
Soon to be all vegan, right.
Yeah, so can we talk about some of these? Because I just discovered them. So they have the Premier Japan brand.
Right.
And that consists of a number of bottled sauces. They have a teriyaki and a sweet and sour.
Right. So if you're cooking up something in your wok and you want it to taste like you're going to a restaurant, you can maybe throw some of this sauces on there, right?
Yes.
Right.
And they're organic.
I know, and they're vegan.
And gluten-free.
It's
At
great.
least a couple of them are. There's another brand, Rhodes End Organic, which I knew of, but I didn't realize it was part of their whole company. So Rhodes End Organic makes those macaroni and cheese kind of boxed meals.
Right.
But it's called mac and crees because it's not cheese.
Right.
As I remember, it's a nutritional yeast-based product. We make those kind of things at home, but for some people who
can't, a lot of people are trying to transition to a plant-based lifestyle. We call it a vegan lifestyle. And one of the things they can't give up is cheese. But when they grab a box of this stuff and try it, I've heard it many, many times, they feel it's better than the original and it's better for you.
Right. Well, something like this product, the Rhodes End Mac and Crees and Shells and Crees and Penny and Crees and Mac and Crees and they're organic. It looks like it's similar to the Kraft macaroni and cheese products and the store brand versions of Kraft macaroni and cheese. I remember back in my college days in the late 70s, we could get 4 for $1.
Right. Right.
And it was cheap and it was convenient and it was easy. So these are listed for $2.99, which is not a bad price for 2020.
No, not at all.
And I'm sure they're very convenient and easy.
I have another brand here.
Yeah?
Called Nature Factor.
Yeah.
Nature Factor Organic Coconut Water is the light, refreshing beverage found in the center of certified organic young coconuts. Free of additives and preservatives and low in sodium, our organic coconut water contains potassium, magnesium, and trace minerals, boasting an enviable array of electrolytes. Nature Factor Organic Coconut Water is a great choice to quench thirst and restore well-being.
If you look at the ingredients, it's just organic coconut water. That's it.
That's it.
Anyway, I'm just excited about this company, and I'm excited that I got to talk to Joel and Allison. Now, of course, there's Native Forest, and I kept forgetting to add the forest earlier in the program. I kept calling it Native Products, but it's Native Forest.
Right.
I've now learned. We use their simple coconut milk.
Right.
Which, guess what? Is just coconut.
That's it. And then they have Let's Do Organic.
Yeah, and we've used them quite a bit too.
Right.
Wait, I just wanted to mention one more because I was so surprised to see it. It was noodles, lasagna noodles, made from hearts of palm.
Right.
So they have worked with people in Ecuador, and they say on their site that it was from land formerly used to raise cattle, and it was converted to a certified organic farmland where indigenous palms, known as chontaduro, are cultivated for their hearts. And they have cleverly crafted organic hearts of palm into low-calorie, grain, and gluten-free pasta. We have to try that, Gary.
Yeah, we do. They have another brand called Let's Do Gluten Free.
Of course, let's do it.
While all of our brands contain gluten-free items, our tests can detect gluten in amounts as small as 5 parts per million, lower than most certification companies. We have introduced the Let's Do Gluten-Free brand to bring to your attention especially innovative gluten-free specialty items. Celebrate your gluten-free diet with Let's Do Gluten-Free ice cream cones. Now, we've had those before.
We have.
Yeah, that was our first ice cream cone together, was a Let's Do Gluten-Free ice cream cone.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember we bought those at Whole Foods. Again, during the days when we can actually go into a Whole Foods.
Yes, well, we could probably order these online, but every few years I get a craving for an ice cream cone.
Right.
and we get the Edwards and Sons varieties.
Yes.
So I'm grateful for them. I also want to mention that they make cassava flour. The Let's Do Organic has a cassava flour, but it's out of stock. And some of you may remember I did this whole cassava flour apple cake project recently, and we've also made sweet potato and cassava flour tortillas.
Right.
Which we haven't done in a few weeks, and we need to get back to that.
But you just made tortillas, but they were made with masa harina. Organic.
Yes. Organic. What's this thing with organic?
You know, I was going to say, why are we so crazy about organic? What is that all about? Well, we don't want any pesticides or poison in our food, so we...
It's pretty simple.
Organic. You should too. Now, we're not going to be pushy about it, because we don't want to be pushy, but you should really try it. Okay?
Okay.
Great.
I also was talking about organic a little bit with Joel and Allison and mentioned that people complain that organic is expensive, and it's all about prioritizing, because I said I don't make a lot of money, but my money goes first to nutritious, healthy food.
That's so important, to put food without poison into your body.
Food without poison.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't
you always phrase things so perfectly.
I mean, it's a priority, but it should be a priority, right?
It should be.
You know, this all makes sense now because we're talking about a company that does care about what their consumers, the people that buy their products, put into their bodies. It's a no-brainer for them. They just want to make sure that if you're going to buy their products, they're organic, which means they don't have any poisons in them. And they care about you. They're family-owned. That's good enough for me. And yeah, maybe it is a little bit more money, but when you think about it, I'd rather have a poison-free lifestyle than a lifestyle that's affordable yet poisonous.
Affordable yet poisonous. If you want to do like a return on investment, for example, on eating organic over 20 years versus not eating organic, and you estimate what your healthcare costs are going to be, most likely, okay, this is not guaranteed, but most likely you're going to lower your risk for health conditions if you're eating organic than if you're not eating organic.
Yeah, you'll probably lower your risk of ever having to go into a situation where you have to go into a hospital.
Yeah, or have autoimmune diseases that are so prevalent today. And they're prevalent, I think, because we have a contaminated food system. And part of it is getting a lot of glyphosate residue on all kinds of food, which is why we buy organic, to avoid that.
And in the end, you're going to save your own life.
Yeah. Oh, there's that. Your own life and that of your family. So that's why, I was using Bob's Red Mill all-purpose gluten-free flours. And we love Bob. Bob. And he has a company that is employee-owned.
Yeah, Bob's another great company.
But some of their products aren't organic. Bob, come on, what's going on?
So we got to get Bob to get on the organic, gluten-free garbanzo bean flour bandwagon.
Yes, and the all-purpose gluten-free flour. So I make my own all-purpose gluten-free
But they've got this great masa harina that's organic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Bob, for the organic masa harina.
And they got a great polenta that's organic.
Which is out of stock a lot.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are buying polenta. Why?
Maybe they heard us talking about it.
I think so. I think everybody's tuning in.
Can you tell us... I know you weren't planning on doing this, but can you tell us how you cook polenta?
Well, there's several different ways, but I think the easiest way is you do 4-to-1, 4 parts liquid to 1 part polenta in a heavy-duty Le Creuset or something that has a lid on it, and you pour that all together and add, if you like to add a little vegan butter to it or a little olive oil or whatever, very little. I add an eyedropper of olive oil to the mix, put it on a 375-degree oven, and bake it for about 40 minutes, and that's how I make polenta.
It's fabulous.
4-to-1.
And that's not the recipe we have on our website, because I posted the one on our website, responsibleeatingandliving.com,
Well,
and I make polenta in a saucepan on the stove.
Right, that's the one we're stirring a lot.
Yeah,
so
but
that's
it's
the other
so
way you
much
can make
better.
It. But
yours is so much better.
I highly recommend it. The last 5 minutes of baking, you remove the lid and just take a fork and just run a fork through it, and then put the lid back on and cook it for the remainder of the time. Oh, we'll go ahead and post that today.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, they call it the quick way, because otherwise you're standing over the stove and you're stirring.
But it's creamier, and it uses more water.
Yeah,
so you
great.
seem to get more out of less.
Yeah, so if you do a 1/4 cup of polenta, how much water is that?
A cup.
Right, cup of water.
Ding!
And a 1/4 cup of polenta.
Right.
So if it's a 1/2 cup of water,
2 cups.
2 cups.
Okay,
if it's a 1/2 cup of polenta, 2 cups of water.
We're doing math now.
So basically that's 4-to-1.
Right.
If it's a gallon of water, that's 4 quarts. So how much polenta would you need?
I don't know.
It's 4-to-1.
A quart.
I would imagine.
I know,
right?
yeah.
Right?
When are we going to go to the metric system?
I don't know.
Quarts and gallons and cups.
It's just the whole
it's
idea
so ridiculous.
of feet. I mean, it's like somebody walking off measurement
yeah,
saying,
so
okay,
wasn't it named after some king's foot or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's, it's all about someone's foot. And yard, I don't know what that's all about. What is a yard?
It's 3 feet.
No, I know that, but why the name? Why the name yard?
Oh, there's something behind it. We just don't know, because we're really going off track now.
That's okay.
That's fine.
We'll get back on track.
Here we are in August.
Oh, yeah, August.
It's hot.
So hot.
We're still doing a lot of sheltering in place.
We are.
Although a lot of places are opening up.
Yeah, they are.
And we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's going to be a good thing or if that's going to just complicate things. But I guess we all have to see.
Yeah. We hope for the best.
Yeah. We hope everybody out there is remaining safe and sound.
And sane.
And sane. And all of the wonderful things that you're doing this summer, share them with us. Especially if you're doing some great plant-based things.
Yeah.
We want to know.
What have you been preparing during this pandemic?
We get up and we do a lot of responsible eating and living work here at Responsible Eating and Living headquarters. And this morning, Karen got up and was a whirlwind in the Responsible Eating and Living kitchen. She got up and made lentil crepes.
Lentil crepes and lentil waffles.
And lentil waffles. Amazing.
So who remembers the interview with Ramses Bravo?
Ramses Bravo talked about red lentil crepes.
Yes, and we didn't have red lentils when I spoke with him, so we just used green lentils, and we made them, and they were great.
They were okay.
They were okay. Then we got the red lentils.
And today you made them.
Yummy.
In the 89-degree heat.
Going to 90.
And they were fantastic.
And I used the batter to make waffles as well as
But tell
crepes.
everyone how simple this batter is.
All right, it's a cup of lentils that I soaked overnight, and then the recipe says to add 2 cups of water. I think I'm going to back off on the water, make it a little thicker, because Ramses Bravo's recipe says to just soak them for an hour. I preferred soaking them longer. I really want to give the lentils an opportunity to sprout, so I sprout them longer. And I think they absorbed more water.
Right.
So I need to back off a little bit. But we still made them. The crepes were a little delicate. So
they were fabulous.
The batter needs to be a little thicker.
They were fabulous.
But that's it.
They weren't too delicate.
Oh.
The waffle was delicate, but you know what the waffle tasted like? It tasted like pâte choux. if anybody has ever made cream puffs,
It was so good.
This
What an amazing texture.
simple batter of just lentils and water. I know that Karen just made it sound really complicated, but it really is just soaking lentils overnight.
So you soak them overnight, you rinse them, you drain them, you put them in a Vitamix high-powered blender with the water, and if you're making a sweet crepe, you can add 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 1 pitted date.
Medjool dates are best.
Yes. Or there's a savory version, and I don't know what Ramsey Bravo did with his savory. It's in his cookbook. But you could do nothing, or you could flavor it with herbs and spices if you want to.
Right.
And that's it.
They were really good. And again, it tastes like a cream puff without the cream when you put it in the waffle iron.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So if you really wanted to have like a cream puff, veganized cream puff that wasn't very obviously fattening, you would put that in the waffle iron, make one, and then put a bunch of sweet
Coconut cream.
Coconut cream right on top.
From Let's Do Organic, Edwards
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with this. Make a coconut cream from Edward & Sons coconut product and drizzle that all over your lentil waffle. Maybe add a couple of strawberries.
Ooh.
You got yourself a party on a plate.
Amazing. Now, we kind of go nutty over waffles, and we have a lot of waffle recipes at responsibleeatingandliving.com. One of my favorites is the steel cut oats and millet waffle.
Right.
Tastes like Cheerios. It's very nice texture.
Without the glyphosate.
Without the glyphosate when you get it organic. And we have a garbanzo bean flour waffle, which is very nice.
Unbelievable. Tastes like Stella D'Oro cookies. If you put a little almond extract in it, It tastes just like a Stella D'Oro cookie. You could dip it in your coffee. I'm not kidding.
But the thing is, all the waffles that we have, they're all different. They're all unique. And now this lentil waffle, which I'll put on the website sometime.
We make waffles out
soon.
of everything. One morning I woke up and I made what's now known as the fruity corn waffle on our website. And I just started throwing stuff in the blender. It was just like
it was a great recipe.
throwing stuff. Give me a waffle iron and I can just make something happen. A waffle iron is a great tool, especially when it's hot. Because if you want something hot and you don't want to turn your oven on or your burners, use the waffle iron, plug it in outside on your terrace.
Now, some people would say that's why an air fryer is so nice.
Yeah.
And an air fryer is something that we don't have yet.
Yeah. I understand that those are great.
But you can make baked potato fries like we do all the time and a lot of other things without really creating a lot of heat.
Yes.
It doesn't take up a big space.
And what I'm trying to say is this was just the morning.
Oh, right. I was a tornado this morning.
Yeah.
I also cooked pinto beans.
Cooked pinto beans that you were soaking the night before.
And I prepared the masa harina to make corn tortillas.
To make the corn tortillas, which you then made later.
Yeah.
You were working on your circles and your squares. Waffles.
Again. Circles and squares. Well, circles and rectangles.
Yeah, circles and rectangles.
Yeah.
Belgian rectangles. Great work today, Karen. You did an excellent job in the kitchen.
Thank you very much, Gary. You know what? I think we're going to have to wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
Okay, everybody. It's been great chatting with you. I hope you enjoyed this program. Gary, it's always wonderful.
Karen, I love you.
Oh.
That's all I can say.
I love you. We should have a...
I love Karen.
Right. Okay, everybody.
Have a delicious week.